Hey guys, it's me, Lawrence Presman, the NFL Presidential Address, week 4. Thank God week 3 is over. Matt Joseph with us. You can find him at sportsmemo.com, on Twitter at midmajormatt, and of course, Ralph Michaels with the pen, wagertalk.com, and you can find him at CalSportsLV. Real big shout out to the people waiting for us, LaMaguina, Mappy, the sports group, backdoor cover. I do question if you guys have jobs because you're on every show I do, but I love it. So thank you. Matt, how did your week 3 go?
Well, I mean, the 5% lost because the Patriots decided to allow the Raiders go 70-something yards in 20 seconds in that first half. So I lost my first half bet there. But the props are going really well. 15-4 run on NFL now, and we're seeing things pretty well in that situation.
Oh, big congratulations, bro. That's outstanding stuff. Hey, Sean, he gives us a greeting from Ireland. I was with an Irish girl once. Just once. Ralph Michaels, how did you do?
I had a 1-2 weekend, so a little bit on the disappointing side, but those are going to happen. Still, 4 straight winning years, and I have to catch Tony Finn's record this year, so it just put me a little behind.
Yeah, and I just had a brutal week all around. I lost my Thursday night over, needed 17 points in the second half, didn't get it. Lost with Atlanta, you know what happened there. And then I pushed on Monday night. 2-4 week for me. But those are going to happen. Listen, let 2 and 4 be our worst week. Anyway, we got a big show ahead. Everybody, we're taking apart every game on the board. And we're going to start first, like always, with some TNA from Ralph Michaels. Go ahead, my friend. What's going on?
I just want to give a shout out to Matt because I really started paying attention to his props those last couple of times. And really, you're just finding value. Okay. Bookmakers know what the line should be on an NFL game. Bookmakers know what the total should be on an NFL game. Then we started adding first halves. Okay, bookmakers learned what the first half line should be. Then we started adding quarters. But for bookmakers to be able to come up with these player props in every game that you have the ability to, that's why you're able to pick off the value, because Matt's studying those, and I can tell you the bookmakers in Vegas are not putting in the same time and effort putting up the numbers. They're just looking at what history has proven and taking a percentage of the offense for each game. So shout out to you, Matt. I think you're going to find a niche that's going to be very profitable for you and our customers moving forward.
Ralph?
Well, yeah.
Just jump in real quick. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there a limit on betting the prop bets?
Oh, sure.
And
yeah.
That I think is very, very important for everybody to realize. Guys, whenever there's a limit to a bet, whether it's who's going to win Survivor or who's going to win American Idol or America's Got Talent or these prop bets or whatever it happens to be, really just ask yourself why. Why can you walk into a sports book and make a $25,000 bet on Oakland over Buffalo, but not on Josh Allen getting over 300 yards? And Ralph just explained the reason. The books just are scared of those bets. So I'm with you, Ralph. Mid-Major Matt has made himself a great little niche. And don't sleep on Andy Lang's prop bets either. Same with Andrew McGinnis. Ralph, we'll get right back to you. Matt, you do a prop show every week with those two guys.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. It's called Prop It Up. We do it at 4 o'clock. We go over a bunch of games. We take questions from the crowd. So, it's a show that people are starting to pay attention to, and we always appreciate it.
I'm is Beast 51. Best NFL show that Wager Talk does, that's for sure. Perfect segue to you, Ralph, because we all agree. Go ahead, my friend.
There's a lot of there's a segment I do on Wager Talk today. Obviously, Prez, you know that. It's you and Teddy, and the last 10 minutes I'm on the show. Well, I broke down a bunch of 3-0 scenarios for teams. I am not going to go through those again. If you want to know all those scenarios, what do 3-0s do against 0-3s? What do 3-0s do against 2-1s? Just look for Wager Talk today for September the 30th. Watch the last 10 minutes of the show, and you're going to get a little extra TNA broken down. Here, I want to talk about the good and the bad. Name the only team in the NFL that has put up 400 yards each of the first 3 games. I'm going to say Seattle, Dallas, Green Bay jump to mind. The LA Rams are the only team to do that this year. I mean, I didn't have the Rams offense in my mind as that type of power. Since 1989, there's only been 13 teams that have had 400 yards. That's 32 years. Only 13 other teams to have 400 plus yards. From 1989 to 2001, they went 6-0 ATS. Since that time, they're 0-6 ATS in their 4th game. Turning that around, if we're going to look at good teams, how do bad teams do? Teams that have failed to reach 300 yards each of the first 3 games, that of course the Jets and the Giants. There are 2 of them. If you have the guts to bet those teams, week 4, they have gone 36-24 against the spread, 60%. If they are on the road, like the Giants are getting, 2 touchdowns?
Almost.
Those road teams, those road teams, 21-9 ATS going back to 1989, 17-5, 77% since 1994. I'm not sure I can get there, but it is a number surprised. Teams off a tie. We saw Cincinnati and Philly tie. Those 26 teams off a tie since 1989, 9-17 against the spread. Only 2-11 ATS when you're on the road. Thursday night probably is not going to get the same viewership as the Monday night game. It's probably going to be down a little bit. That's my guess. But when you look at Thursday night home teams with the lines between the 2.5s, the lines come down now with the Denver injuries. We'll talk about that more. So you have a Thursday team, the lines between the 2.5s, and this other team now is traveling on a short week. Those Thursday night home teams, 18-6, 75% against the spread. That's the situation the Jets are in. Big away favorites. We have the Ravens laying whatever to the Washington Redskins. Since 2016, away favorites of 7.5 or more, 69%. Since 2016, away favorites of 12.5 or more, not many, obviously, 6-2-1 ATS. 2 more, 3-0 teams. There's couple here, so follow me. 3-0 teams at home facing a non-division foe with a line of up to 6.5. So they could be an underdog or they could be a favorite up to minus 6.5. So we have the Chicago Bears. They're 3-0. They're at home. They're facing a non-division foe in Indy, and the line is less than or greater than 6.5, minus 6.5. Those teams since 1989, 17-4. And lastly, NFL teams on the road off a home game if their opponent allowed 400 yards or more. So Cleveland, Arizona, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh are all on the road this week. They were all at home last week. And Dallas, Carolina, the Raiders, and Tennessee all allowed over 400 yards. So if you're that road team, you have gone 72-31, 70% against the spread. So giving up that 400 yards in the NFL is a big deal. And on the road, you're getting some extra value because those teams are at home paying the extra price as well.
Ralph Michaels, everybody. How good is he? Ralph, we were going to call you the professor, and then Teddy called me, and he's like, I hate when you call Ralph the professor. So I don't know why I listen to Teddy.
I think back of the old tout days with the professor, so I sort of cringe just because of that, but that shows my age.
Okay, so we need a nickname for Ralph, everybody. Let's go. Help us out. It cannot be the professor. The great Teddy Covers has spoken. Sports Group, I love you, bro. Tony Blaze, always have such nice things to say. Thank you, my friend. Sean, nice to see you. Teasing the NFL, we love having you, bro. And I love teasing NFL bets. We got a guy in here with the best name ever. Parlays are for suckers, Wilson. Thanks, dude. Thanks for the kind words and outstanding name. And I want to point out before we get into the games, and we're going to take apart every game on the board, we have an MVP of all our videos. Ralph, you know who he is, Superman, Superman. He's been pretty much time stamping the videos that we've been doing for about the last 18 months. He does just about every single video that we put out, which means he has to listen to them all, figure out when the games are being spoken about, and write them down. Why am I telling you this? Because he's never in the actual chat room watching the shows, except for the NFL Presidential Address. And on top of it, he commented a week or two ago that he's not watching Bet On It anymore. So, Superman, please watch Bet On It. It's a really, really good show. But more importantly, thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. Gordon Matthews, you as well, brother. Perfect rotation. Nice to see you. 6 1s and a K. The Ralph-a-matician. Yeah, I don't think that one's going to stick, Ralph. Do you?
No, I look at him. I mean, Marco calls me Stat Daddy, and I don't like that one either. I just don't.
Oh, but
say
Ralph,
anything,
you would be a great daddy to some little. Okay, let's move on. Denver, New York Jets. Well, this game's a doozy. It felt originally when Sam Darnold was going to play that it really came down to whether the Denver defense would outscore the Denver offense. I think there should have been a line out on that personally. But here we sit, 39.5, -1 to Denver with a couple of picks on the board. Ralph, I don't want to waste too much time on this game. However, there's no game that is more important than any other game if we could find a bet. I can't. What do you like this Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. You look at Denver's been outgained by 54, 91, and 127 yards their 3 games. Jets have been outgained by 150, by 82, and by 93. And part of the reason the Jets don't have horrific defensive numbers are because, well, if Indy's going to score multiple defensive touchdowns, your offense doesn't get on the field. So, you have to look to adjust and make those type of adjustments. The only lean I can even give here is, my obviously lean would be to the under. But, when you have the injuries the Jets do with the top 3 wide receivers, the running backs, and you have quarterback issues, and is it going to be Blake Bortles? Is it going to be Ripien? You're missing 2 Pro Bowlers on the defensive line. You're missing Sutton, Locke, and the running back, Philip Lindsay. To me, I'm going to pass. I will lean with the under.
Yeah, and I mean, the under seems to be the only bet you can make. Ralph, did you see the movie When We Were Men or something with Daniel Day-Lewis? It was like an oil movie. The first 18 minutes, there was no speaking. Matt, we're going to break that record. Ralph, let's go to the next game. I'm kidding. Matthew, talk to me. You got to have something on this Denver New York Jets game.
Well, to me, I mean, it's the same thing I've done all season long so far, and it's been pretty good. It's the Jets under team total. It's 18.5. I mean, if you think about it, now Jamison Crowder is pretty big for this game in terms of for his props or for Braxton Berrios' props. So we'll have to watch. He's listed as questionable. But to me, there's no reason that they couldn't win a 17-14 type game here and you still win the under on 18.5. The other thing, the other prop I would look at, and it's not widely available, but is the over on sacks. Denver's offensive line has given up 13 sacks and 29 quarterback hits the last 2 games. If Mekhi Becton doesn't play, he's the best offensive lineman for the Jets. Now, granted, both teams stink up front, but to me, you've got 2 sieve-like offensive lines. You might get a decent number on the sacks. By the way, the last stat, Denver's IR list right now is $53.4 million or 26.9% of their cap. So that's kind of what they're missing right now. So to me, it's the Jets team total under and maybe the sacks over if you can find a number for
Matt
it.
Brent Gregory, one of our viewers, he wrote, what about Noah Fant props? And, I'm with him there. I think the way Denver is going to play this game is really underneath a lot of check downs. I think Noah could have a big game.
He's the number I last saw is 4.5. I'm a little hesitant there because he does have a lot of games where he gets 4, but we just saw Jordan Reed slice up the Jets, and we've seen the Jets struggle. They don't have any good linebackers. So, yeah, Noah Fant's probably the way to go. I'd also consider Melvin Gordon to score a rushing touchdown or a touchdown in general, especially if Phillip Lindsay, who's listed as questionable, doesn't play in the game.
Matt, one of our listeners says that you remind him of Steve Carroll from The Office, and I see it. I mean, I'm Jeffrey Epstein. You're Steve Carroll. Ralph, John Lithgow. No? I just came up with that right now. Ralph's like, just get to the next game, Prez. Come on, man. This is not going to be an hour and a half show. Please, dude. Okay, Indianapolis, Chicago. This is it on my short list flat out. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Chicago might be one of the worst 3-0 teams we've seen. They should have lost every game. So here they sit. Indianapolis, I think, is a good team. A team that's going to be slow moving. I like Indy minus 2.5, and I really like the under. The under is on my short list. Indy is on my short list. There is a chance I might actually release both, which is very, very rare. But I think Chicago is going to struggle to score. I think this game has 17-13 type numbers written all over it. Ralph Michaels. Actually, let's go to Matt first. We're going to switch it around.
I have a question for you, Matt, to start this. Do the sports books adjust enough? When you got a guy like Tariq Cohen that's out, so now David Montgomery is going to get the majority, do they make that adjustment the first game where you got multiple guys out of a position group, or is that where you can get a lot of value?
I would say they're going to know because there's not another guy. I mean, if there was a third guy that had gotten some carries and a third guy that people would look at, I would say there would be a little bit of less of an adjustment. But since there's nobody else and Montgomery's got such good stats, he's like third on yards per target or something like that, they'll adjust big time. Now, the question is, and now we haven't seen the numbers yet, but will be too much of an adjustment. That'll be something to say.
Matt, let's go right into what you like in this game. Indy minus 2.5, under 44.5. Talk to me, brother.
So I agree with you on the under, but I actually am leaning towards the Bears here. Now, it's not just because I love Nick Foles and, Nick Foles brought me a Super Bowl, but I think that there's something to the fact that Nick Foles being under center brings this offense more motivation. I mean, and they know what Mitch Trubisky does, and they know he played okay the first couple of games, but Nick Foles brings an energy and a confidence to that huddle that I think Allen Robinson's happier. I think Anthony Miller's happier. By the way, Jimmy Graham has 5 targets within the 10-yard line. That's the most in the NFL. And the Colts are the best against the tight end. So, therefore, it's going to be an interesting matchup to see if the carcass of Jimmy Graham can do anything against this Colts defense. Just saw the Colts injury report. It's pretty clean, but they don't have Michael Pittman Jr. They don't have Paris Campbell at wide receiver. The key for the Colts is the last 2 games. We talked about that after that week 1. The last 2 games, 71 rushes and 50 passes. The Colts know what they are. They are a running team that throws it when they have to. That week 1 game, they threw it too much and didn't run it enough. So I lean more towards your under here, but I also like the Bears in this game.
Ralph, settle the debate.
Well, I'm going to side with Matt, not just
I'm
because
muting you.
I normally want to go against you, Prez. That's never the case when we're talking picks. I like Chicago. I like Chicago without Trubisky. And I think that, the team's defensive numbers are going to improve so much. Well, how can a quarterback improve a defensive number? I'll tell you what, couple first downs a drive are huge to let your teams off and not have to play. Detroit, they were trailing at halftime 13-6. The defense gave up 426 yards on a lot of deep pass plays. So I do think that the defense that has had 6 sacks the last 2 weeks, the confident comeback of being down by 16 points against Atlanta in the fourth quarter and making that comeback. And, you look at who the Colts have played. Well, Jacksonville week 1, yes, they lost the game, but they had an edge. Minnesota, Cousins was playing as poor as anyone. And then the Jets game, which you have to throw out. So, I guess the Jets and the Giants equal out, between the 2 teams. But I do like the Bears in this situation back at home off that confident building win.
And I get it, Ralph, and I think you make both of you guys make a really good point about how the offense is going to feel with Nick Foles behind center. And I'll tell you flat out, the only thing really keeping me from hammering the under is, where is Phillip Rivers going to throw his 2 mandatory interceptions? Are they going to be on his side of the 50 or on the other team's side of the 50? And it's the same with Nick Foles. He's going to have 20 minutes of, mistake-free football and 20 minutes of mistake football. Where is it going to happen? I don't know. And that's really keeping me off of really pounding the under. I just, it's hard to trust. It's hard to put trust in Phillip Rivers. Hey,
Prez, let me just jump in there. When you're talking like you are, that if you have a quarterback in a pressure situation that is apt to throw picks, I often like first half total because you're not changing your schemes in the first half. Even if you're down by 7 or 10, you're not playing that rush offense that you're trying to force plays like you do in the second half.
Wow, man, that is a great point. Guys, you're watching the NFL Presidential Address, Week 4. Proud Babylonian, nice to see you, my friend. Overtime, what's going on? Perfect rotation. Good to have you with us. I'm doing this while watching the baseball games. Tampa Bay up 1-0. I know people watching this later don't care. And here we go again. Cincinnati, men in the corners, no out. Okay, boys, let's get to the next one. New Orleans, Detroit. I got so much to say here. I'm going to be really quick about this. I think New Orleans is a sell team. I understand Michael Thomas is likely coming back. He's going to stretch the field. I just don't know if Drew Brees can stretch the field. Mr. Check down. With that said, if Brees can get Michael Thomas the ball maybe 12 yards past the line of scrimmage, that's going to open up more room for their weapon, Kamara. With all that said, I think New Orleans' defense is mediocre at best. I think their offense is mediocre at best. I think Detroit is a bye team. I think they're a better team than their record states. They should be 2-1 right now. I think they have a better quarterback right now. I think Galladay is looking good. There's chemistry. They got a great tight end. Give me the points, Ralph. Give me the points.
I had to look up in the database. Database goes back to 1989. The Saints are only the 5th team to lose back-to-back primetime games as a favorite. So, but I think they have the right mentality to come back. I do like the Saints here. I think they're the best one-win team out there. I think the defense is okay. I think that Michael Thomas probably is the most important wide receiver to Drew Brees. I think if you say who's the most important receiver to that quarterback for that offense, I think it's Michael Thomas. I mean, we've seen Drew Brees struggle trying to stretch the field to those receivers. If he has that, then Kamara's a different beast.
Yep.
And Kamara catching short passes makes the offense different. And, if I'm looking at these two teams off those 2 losses on national TV that everyone lost, including a home game to Green Bay, I think they have the right mentality to bounce back.
Ralph, I just want to point out some guy on the NFL Presidential Address last year noticed Tom Brady's arm and the disaster known as the New England Patriots offense about 6 weeks before anybody else. That'd be me. And I'm telling you, it's over for Drew Brees. He is done. And that team will not make the playoffs. Matt, what do you like in this game?
Oh, I'll make that bet.
Okay, what are we going to bet? What are we going to bet?
Well, you give me 2-1 because they're 1-2.
You want me to give you 2-1 odds when they're one?
You put up 1,000.
What?
I'll put up 500. You put up
1,000. No, dude, I want to do something healthy. I want to do something in both our best interests. I will put.
All right. Well, let's go to the show. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it at the end.
Okay, Matt, talk to me.
Well, I think the key to this matchup is the red zone. The Lions, when they are in the red zone, score touchdowns only 46.2% of the time, which is 27th. The Saints are allowing touchdowns 83.3% of the time in the red zone. I mean, you said the Saints defense is mediocre. They've been whistled for a league-high 9 pass interference calls for over 180 yards total. And we talked about last week, I said that I wanted to see this Lions offense. I said there was something about the Lions that I couldn't quit, and Galladay makes a big difference for this offense. He pushes everybody down. Jones is not the number one. Amendola is not a number two. The running game is now complementary instead of taking, being a leader here. So the Lions are a different team. Desmond Trufant's supposed to be back, so that's going to help out their secondary. A couple of other things real quick. Detroit has had trouble with running backs. They've allowed 439 yards rushing and 115 yards receiving to running backs alone. And last week, they actually had 6.5 was the total for Alvin Kamara receptions, and I think he went over that. I'm pretty sure he did.
I think it was 13
Kamara might be worth
something.
it. Yeah, exactly. So I think Kamara rushing and receiving props will be worth a look once again. The last thing is ESPN had a stat that the Lions ranked dead last in pass rush win rate, which means how fast they get to the quarterback. They are 40% behind the league leader and 12% behind the next team. So the Lions aren't going to pressure Drew Brees enough. To me, this 54 seems interesting. You could look at the over here. I'm not ready to go say, hey, I'm ready to back the Lions because I still don't trust them as a whole. But Detroit could make things very interesting for the Saints, especially if they can, match with them point for point.
Leonard Welch writes Detroit money line. I'm with you, Leonard. I'm going to be sprinkling some money on Detroit this week. Look, I got deep respect for Ralph Michaels and his thoughts, but we do disagree at times. And we're going to disagree on this one. As for the total, guys, another big number, 54 and a half. I got nothing there. Ralph, anything quick?
Well, I do like what Matt said. You look at the Detroit Lions, they've only had 1 sack in each of their 3 games. And the New Orleans Saints have only been sacked 3 times as a whole. So on the flip side, the Saints have 7 sacks on defense, with Stafford having gotten sacked 9 times already. So big O-line edges to Detroit, but with those conflicting edges, no opinion on the total.
Ralph, I got to tell you, sacking Drew Brees at this stage in his career is like putting a condom on a eunuch. Pointless. Matt Joseph, come on, I made that up right now. That was not bad. I mean, I wouldn't bother sacking him. I'd just lay more linebackers down and say, check down to me, baby. I know you can't throw more than 5 yards. Your shoulder is done. You haven't stroked the goalie or whatever in 5 years. Anyway, Arizona, Carolina. I better move on. Ralph is going to lecture me. Arizona, Carolina. This should be a fun game. Arizona, maybe they're not as good as we thought. Last week, a loss, but coming off of a loss, going into Carolina could fix things. Carolina, they looked okay against the Chargers last week, but they were really unable to move the ball. Ralph, I just don't think Carolina will be able to score with this team. I don't want to take Arizona. I don't want to take the road team with a hook. So I'm just going to outright lay off this one. What do you think?
I think this is probably Kyler Murray's most important game of his career so far. He threw 3 picks, and that led the loss to Detroit. He now learned he can't force it in. He made some very fortunate throws last year and even early this year where he just thought, okay, I can make these throws and I can do this to NFL defense as well. If he learned last week that he needs to adjust and not force those throws in, that's the kind of quarterback you need to go on the road and win games. Oh, yeah, by the way, your next 3 games are on the road if you're the Arizona Cardinals. But, you guys, I mentioned this before, guys. I liked them week 1 against San Francisco. I liked them week 2 against Washington. I had no opinion last week. But going on the road as a road favor to the East Coast is a little different. I'm not a real big East Coast, West Coast guy, but it's the uniqueness of playing in the stadium for the first time. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game with Arizona as a road favorite. I agree with you that Carolina has trouble scoring. I like the under here.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. The under seems like a good play as well, and I would take Arizona over Carolina. I just don't need to. Matt?
Well, I would lean to the under as well. I'm concerned about Carolina in terms of their offense because, I just, without Christian McCaffrey, there isn't a lot to scare you. I like Moore. I like Robbie Anderson. He's been another Adam Gase cast-off that's done well in other places. But to me, Teddy Bridgewater's got to get him the ball, and they've got to run the ball a little bit, and Mike Davis doesn't scare anybody. On the Cardinal side, the thing I've enjoyed is the bookmakers have not been able to make the DeAndre Hopkins props high enough. Last week it was 6.5. He had 10 receptions. The week before it was around 6.5. He had 8 receptions against the Redskins. This is another team that I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to be busy, especially if Christian Kirk doesn't play again. Hopkins has had 37 targets in 3 weeks so far. And, as Ralph said, I think you could see Kyler throw the ball a lot once again. But this is also because Drake has been a disappointment, Kenyon Drake, which I kind of saw coming because I didn't think Drake was as good as he was last year.
You could just stop at Drake has been a disappointment because, my God, I can't stand that guy's whatever they call it. Music, I think, is the term.
Oh, well, yeah. I meant Kenyon Drake, but that's okay.
I know, but I thought about Drake and his really bad music, and I'm like, let's talk about that because it drives Ralph crazy.
Through their last 19 games, Carolina has allowed 34 rushing touchdowns, including 7 of them this year. I'm looking at the Kenyon Drake props, but I'm going to make sure to include the rushing and receiving just in case he's better on one of those more than the other. But if Kenyon Drake doesn't get healthy in this game, then I don't know when he'll get healthy.
Yeah,
and just to your point, Matt, sorry, Prez, targets this year, DeAndre Hopkins 37, Keenan Allen 37, Amari Cooper 35, Ridley 35, and then Kamara and Robinson, the running backs 31.
Yeah, and Matt, I just want to stop for a second and talk about a bet that I made this week. I got to get used to the concept of releasing these prop bets to my clients. Before the Kansas City game, they put up a stat showing that Patrick Mahomes averages around 301 yards a game throughout his career. So I went over to my sports book and I found that his passing yards for Monday night was 298. I'm like, wait a minute. It's lower than his average, and they're playing a team that could score a lot, making them have to keep up. That seemed like an amazing bet to me. I took it and won it, I think, early in the third quarter. How is that number so low?
Well, I'm guessing they're thinking that the Ravens defense is better and that they, at some point the Chiefs are going to have to establish the run potentially. But, they just kept throwing it. And Andy Reid threw 19 screen passes in 17 different formations. So, yeah, that's the thing. As Ralph said, there's a ton of props out there. There are values to be found. It's just you have to find them. It's rare that a headliner like Mahomes is where you find it, though.
Ralph, Cincinnati hosting Jacksonville. And I think this is a fascinating game. I think Cincinnati could win it. I think Jacksonville can win it. Jacksonville was definitely not as bad as they were against Miami. But this Joe Burrow looks real. I just don't think he has enough of a supporting cast around him. Same with the defense on Cincinnati. I lean on Jacksonville in the points here, Ralph.
I'm still not going to be sold on Burrow. I've liked him. I've been semi-impressed with him. But he's two different quarterbacks. When you're playing even in the first half, he's not the same quarterback. When you're getting behind and they're playing no huddle and you're playing prevent defenses, he looks good and makes some nice throws. You still have to learn to win games as a quarterback. He was sacked 8 times last game. He's now been sacked 14 times on the year. The O-line's a sieve. Next Gen Stats said that in last week's game, he was pressured 21 of the 52 throws. So almost every other throw, you're going back there and you're having to get pressure. That takes a lot out of you. Now, Jacksonville hasn't had a defensive front that's gotten a lot of pressure. Against Indy, against Tennessee, and Miami, you've had only 1 sack in those games. But you did have Phillip Rivers and Fitzpatrick and Fitzpatrick for Miami. You had very veteran quarterbacks. So I think Jacksonville picks up their sack rate. I'm not worried that, they lost to Miami. They had the yardage edge. I actually lean Jacksonville in this game.
Mid-major Matt, talk to me, baby. What do you like?
I guess I'll go out on my own here. I like the Bengals, and I'm not just saying that because I watched them play my Eagles last week. There are some. I think the Bengals defense is better than people give credit for. I'm be very interested if Geno Atkins plays because obviously that's a big piece. They've got the 6th-ranked pass defense in the league. Now I don't know if that's so much that people just want to run on them, and the Eagles probably should have ran on them more. And Miles Sanders should have had 150 yards against them, but Doug Peterson's an idiot, and we'll get to that later. I'll stop doing that. But I mean, I wasn't as impressed with Jacksonville on Thursday. We talked about that. Like, they probably were the better team than Miami. They were home and they didn't play very well. And Minshew is what he is. He's a very okay quarterback with okay weapons. A small thing here is they're on their 3rd kicker because the kicker they used last week is on IR, Stephen Hauschka, who is a veteran, so that should help. The guy I'm also going to target here is James Robinson. And I'm going to keep patting myself on the back because I said week 1 I like the kid out of Illinois State. The Bengals have allowed 155, 215, and 175 rushing yards. If Jacksonville wants to win, they will pound the kid and rush him 25, 30 times until, the Bengals call sick and just you want to stop playing. But I don't know if they're going to do that. To me, I lean Bengals here. I might try and get down on the money line. Of course, as Ralph would say, do the math. Find the right money line and see if you want to get involved there. But I think the Bengals are a better team right now at home, and I'll back Joe Burrow over Gardner Minshew.
And I get it, Ralph. Matt?
I have a statement to make. All right, Matt, I don't think I've disagreed with you once on the show, but you said something, and I think it's very important to bring up. You have the number 5 pass defense because you have the number 31 rush defense, and you're allowing 5.0 yards per carry. That's probably my biggest pet peeve when someone says, oh, they have this pass rush when their overall defense is number 24 because no one has to pass the ball because you just run the ball for a first down. So that's the only thing I'll disagree with you. And you actually went through and sort of said that could be because people want to run on them. I think in Cincinnati's case, it's exactly the reason their pass numbers are low just because their rush numbers are so opposing team friendly.
Matt, you do not get to respond. I am now Chris Wallace. You've both had your 2 minutes. Okay, I do want to jump in quick before we attack the next game. Richard writes about Survivor, Rams or Ravens, and I do a lot of Survivor, Richard, and the bottom line is you've got to organize your whole year ahead of time. So the question isn't which do you do, Rams or you don't agree there, Matt?
I do not. That's not how I do Survivor. I don't worry about week 15 if I'm not going to get there. I go week by week, unless there's specific rules. Like I know Circa has that specific rule that Thanksgiving is a separate
better keep
week.
Dallas.
Exactly. But to me, I'm not worried about week 10 when I need to get week 4 before then.
And Matt, I agree with you to an extent. So what I do is I do organize the year ahead of time. I don't necessarily stick to it. But the bottom line is the Ravens will be a better team to hold than the Rams. So for me, I'm going to take the Rams in Survivor this week, and I'm going to keep Green Bay and the Ravens and the Chiefs. I'm going to keep them in my pocket because the longer you can keep the Ravens and the Chiefs in your pocket, the better you're ultimately going to do. So I think somewhere between what you're saying and what I'm saying is the right answer. But the bottom line, Richard, is the Rams. Would you agree with that, Matt?
No.
Oh, yeah. The Rams have already locked in.
Okay,
yes.
Ralph?
I wouldn't.
Tell me why, dude.
I wouldn't.
I'm in the Circa.
Well, because you have the best or the second best team off an embarrassing Monday night loss. I don't think they can lose 2 in a row. Can the Rams tank and Goff have a bad performance after those 400? Well, yeah, I said teams off 400s, have lost, failed to cover 6 straight. That doesn't mean you're going to lose. But if I have 2 equal teams and I have a quality team off an embarrassing home loss, I'm going to back that.
And Ralph, I agree with every single word that came out of your mouth, except this: you don't win this week. And ultimately, I agree that the Ravens have a better shot, have a greater percentage chance of winning than the Rams do. But the Rams' percentage shot of winning is high enough to keep Baltimore in your back pocket. That's how I'm looking at it. Let's move on to the next game, boys, and a doozy at that. Cleveland, a 2-1 team, playing Dallas. Dallas minus 4.5, and I think this number is too high. The total is 55.5, 56. I think that might be too low. Dallas has maybe one of the worst secondaries in football. Their defense is crap. They do look good on offense finally. I think this game is going to be a shootout. I think we're going to get into the 60s. I think Cleveland can keep pace with them, and I think Cleveland has a better defense. I think Cleveland can win this game outright, Matt. I like Cleveland plus 4.5.
You know what I think about the Browns? And I would love to take the Browns here. I think the Browns can win. I do. I think they are the better team. But Baker Mayfield's throwing for just 6.2 yards per attempt. They have 6 plays of 20 yards or more. And I know we talked about in the preseason about how Stefanski's going to want to grind everything. And the offensive line, a bunch of their guys were top performers according to Pro Football Focus. And I want to see the injuries. Look, Dallas without Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins and DeMarcus Lawrence, they already lost Awuzie. They've already lost Anthony Brown. The secondary is beatable. Alton Smith has the most sacks on the team.
Van Noy?
And Dallas is... excuse me? Van Noy.
Who's their middle linebacker that calls the plays? He was
Van Der
Esch. He's gone too.
Yeah, oh yeah. I want to take Cleveland. I do. But this feels like one of those situations where Cleveland lays a massive egg. Dallas goes and wins this game, and everybody afterwards is like, damn, I shouldn't have trusted Cleveland. They have all the edges, but personal thing here, this might just be me. I can't take Cleveland in this situation because they just lay a lot of eggs, and I'm not ready to trust them yet in this situation. Lean to Cleveland, but it won't make my card.
Well, if we got a thumbs down already, it must be me. I'll wear that thumbs down for my terrible jokes. 47 thumbs up, 270 of you watching. Help us out, guys. Ralph, what do you like in this game?
I cannot back Cleveland. And you guys know I'm a Cleveland diehard fan. Obviously, betting's different than being a fan. I will say this. I've read a couple stories where Odell Beckham, they called him a complete disappointment. I completely disagree with that. If you read the Cleveland papers, 2 weeks ago he said, listen, guys, I now realize that I am not going to get big offensive numbers in this offense. My job is to win. If you watched him this past week, when Baker underthrew a ball and he came back and he stopped the guy from intercepting the ball, he was ecstatic that he played defense and stopped that interception. I think he's buying in to be the perfect team player regardless of his stats. But Prez and Matt, you guys know me. When you have numbers that are so strong as Cleveland's last 7 road games, 0-7 straight up, 0-7 ATS. They have failed to cover those games by 16 points per game. Baker and this offense went to Baltimore, put up 6 points. Now they have their second road test. Dallas is going to have some fans there. They are going to have to deal with noise. And until Cleveland breaks that 7-game losing streak on the road where they've been getting crushed, I cannot back them.
I get it, bro. Minnesota going into Houston, 2 teams that had a lot of expectations that just stink right now. But one of them's going to get a W. A minus 4.5 in some places, minus 3.5 in one place. There's a minus 5 on the board. There's a minus 4 on the board. The total is 54.5. I'd love to guys to give you advice on this game, but I got nothing, Matt.
I mean, if Deshaun Watson doesn't blow up, if you have seen what he's gone through so far against the defenses he's seen, this is his blow-up situation. Holton Hill ranks 97th out of 102 at cornerback. Hughes is 75th. Hughes is questionable. Cameron Dantzler missed last week. He's actually graded the best at 57th. He's in danger of missing this game, too. They've allowed 73.8% completion percentage and 10.4 yards per target. So if this is one of those Will Fuller games where Will Fuller breaks off a couple touchdowns, to me, I'm looking at the over for Deshaun Watson touchdown passes. I think this is where Houston gets fat and sassy, as Marco would say. And plus, look, 48 hours away from the facility is something for the Vikings. It's just something that, I know that everybody's tested negative, and of course, as we go through the week, we'll watch that story. But to me, this is one of those breathing sigh of relief type games for the Texans after everything they've gone through. Now, I wonder, I wonder if Ralph says here this could be a letdown spot after everybody they've played. But to me, I think Deshaun Watson goes nuts. I will caution people on one thing: that Justin Jefferson had a huge game last week. Vegas may adjust his props a little bit. There may not be value anymore on Justin Jefferson, so just be careful not to blindly take overs because he had a really good game last week. I just watch out and see what his numbers are before you blindly take the overs, because 2 weeks in a row, really good like that, he's a rookie. So remember, he's going to be inconsistent.
Matt, does that mean you like the over in this game too?
I don't trust Kirk Cousins to do his part in the over. What have you seen from Minnesota's offense so far this year that tells you that Kirk Cousins is going to get into a shootout with everybody, and then you're just asking the Texans to score 35, 37 points here? So that's why I don't like the over here. I think this is a Texans get-right game, and just everybody has a great game against Minnesota.
That's a great point, Matt. Ralph, how are you taking this game apart?
I'm going to be very quick. On paper, I lean Minnesota. I lean Houston because you played probably the most difficult NFL schedule in the history of the NFL the first 3 weeks. At KC, Baltimore, at Pittsburgh. I mean, you add up the power ratings for those 3 teams. Probably no one's played a tougher schedule. But I have a rule, guys, and my rule is this: it's very simple handicapping. When I have a team over a 3-game or a 4-game period that rushes for over 5.5 yards per game, Minnesota's averaging 6 yards per game, against a team that's averaging over 5.2 yards per allowed on defense, I am only taking that better rushing team against a poor rushing defense, or I'm passing. So eye test says Houston. Rush stats for me, which I still live by even in this day and age of passing, says Minnesota.
2 minutes ago, I asked for a whole bunch of likes. 3 guys hit the thumbs down button. So you 3, you hit the wrong button, damn it. And on top of that, who would watch a live show? Like they decided to watch this show and then thumbs down it. Just leave. Just go away, man. Like quietly. You're a grown freaking adult. Okay, Seattle, Miami, a -6.5 for Seattle, total of 53.5. Here we go again with me, man. I can't bet this game. I do lean on Miami here, Ralph. I'll go to you first, and I also lean on over the total. What are your thoughts?
Miami hung with New England on the road, only got outgained by 88 yards. They, lost to 3 to Buffalo. You beat Jacksonville. And as good as Seattle looked, if a team is giving up 497 yards per game and you're a road favorite of a touchdown, there's no way in hell I'm backing you.
Matt?
I like Miami here. Seattle is allowed the most passing yards in the first 3 games combined in NFL history, 430.7 passing yards per game. And you're looking at an opportunity without Jamal Adams, which if there's no Jamal Adams, I'm loading up on the Mike Gesicki props because he's one of the reasons why tight ends have been a problem or have not been a problem for Seattle. You could not have potentially Chris Carson. I do wish there was some sort of sandwich situation, but there's not because it's a home game against the Vikings coming up, and it looks like it's Sunday night football that day, so there's no sandwich situation there. But to me, the Dolphins seem very live. You know that Ryan Fitzpatrick can do it. You know that he's going to be able to throw. I almost want people to put Ryan Fitzpatrick in their DFS lineups. Him and Devontae Parker could be a very nice stack this week. So to me, I'm taking the Dolphins anything around 6.5.
Yeah, and I get it, man. Young Ganji, nice to see you, bro. He agrees with the over on that play. N.O. Fitzmagic, always good for a backdoor cover. That he is. Superman, 9 thumbs down. Then game 7, now it's 8. What can you do, man? These are angry people. I got nothing. Tampa Bay against the Chargers, -7 for Tampa Bay, a total of 43.5. You got to look at the under here, but I can't be betting unders that low, not in this day and age, and I can't take -7 for Tampa Bay, but I do think that is likely the play. I could see Tampa Bay in a whole lot of teasers. Matt, I'll go to you first. I lean on Tampa Bay -7.
My beloved Chargers. They need Tyrod Taylor. I know Herbert's been playing well, but I don't think they lose that game last week with Tyrod. He doesn't make the mistakes that Herbert does. I know Herbert put up good stats, but Tyrod Taylor's a veteran. He's not making half the, with the turnovers last week. They probably win that game. We don't know if he's going to play in this game, but you look at the Chargers' defensive injuries, Chris Harris, Melvin Ingram, Derwin James, Nasir Adderley, all these guys in the secondary. Who's covering Mike Evans? Who's covering, some of the other guys, Scotty Miller? Gronk made a resurrection last week. I guess I shouldn't have been happy that my Gronk prop was looking good. The Buccaneers play really good rush defense, so who knows how good Eckler's going to be. Josh Kelly was a disappointment last week. Everything tells you to take the Bucs, but Bucs do have a Thursday night game in Chicago next week to consider, so probably nothing for me here, but it seems very easy to put the Bucs in your teaser probably.
Ralph, the more I'm thinking about this game as Matt's talking, the more I'm kind of liking the Bucs. I got to stop being so afraid of taking these -7s. What do you like here?
Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are becoming the New England Patriots. They're number 4 in defense. They have 11 sacks the last games. 4 net have given them a rush attack that Brady doesn't have to throw deep. But yet, you're hitting Mike Evans, over 13 yards per reception. So really, we didn't know what was going to happen. Was Brady going to become a Tampa Bay Arians guy that throws the ball 80 times? Well, he still is averaging 37 attempts per game, but I have no problems taking Tampa here. I like the under as well. You have a Chargers team that has scored 16, 20, and 16, and they scored the 20 and 16 against KC and Carolina at home. Guys, being a rookie quarterback is one thing. Matt made a great point. When Justin Herbert lined up for KC had no film on him. They didn't know he was starting. Tyrod Taylor got hurt during warmups. What happened? Carolina held him to 16. He threw a couple picks. He got sacked a couple times. Now he's playing his first road game with fans in Tampa against the Bucs defense that has 11 sacks the last 2 games.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to skip the Pittsburgh-Tennessee game. I think it goes under. Too soon? Too soon? No? Okay. Let's move on to Baltimore-Washington. Baltimore -13, a total of 46. I'm not laying that much on the road. This is going to be an angry Baltimore team, that is for sure. But Washington's got at least a semblance of a defense. Pass. Ralph?
Well, I'm not laying that much either. Granted, they're 6-2-1 since 2016, 12.5 point away favors. But, you have a Baltimore offense that's pissed off. They've been sacked 4 times against Houston. They've been sacked 4 times against Kansas City. I think Washington's going to get burned with a lot more screens this year. I think Lamar Jackson has to make the adjustments. He got caught a couple times. You saw how frustrated he was against Kansas City. Now, Washington's proved they got a D-line that can hang, but you got to remember, Dwayne Haskins played 1 year at Ohio State, then he played here. This is probably the 20th some game he started. So for him to be sacked 10 times, for him to throw those picks and make those poor mistakes against Cleveland, to me, Haskins needs to throw the ball less, just be an under team, work on improving this year and getting better. And perhaps he is the quarterback, perhaps he's not. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm not going to lay that many points with Baltimore. I'm not going to take Washington, but I am going to lean under here. I think they try to protect Haskins. I think they try to run the ball more, and I think Baltimore is going to be happy just getting out with a win. They got Cincinnati and Philly on deck, so nothing that they're having to look ahead to. But on the short week, they did get beat up pretty soundly against KC. I think their bodies are going to need that rest, and they're not going to look that good.
He's Ralph Michaels. You can find him at wagertalk.com. And remember, everybody, he's on Wager Talk today every single day Monday to Friday. And Ralph, before we get, Matt, give me your thoughts, and then Ralph, we're going to talk a little bit about Wager Talk today. But Matt, what do you like in this game?
It's the common theme in the chat. Baltimore first half, Baltimore team total here. No Matt Ioannidis for that WFT front line. No Chase Young. He looks like he's going to be out, so that's going to be a big thing. And you've got Dwayne Haskins. It's basically in a corner. There are people who want Alex Smith. There are people that want Kyle Allen. There are people who just don't like what it is. And you've already got Ron Rivera talking about last week. He didn't use his timeouts because he wanted the experience for his young team. The offense is just averaging 288 yards per game. They had 5 turnovers last game. There's nothing about Washington that I like right now. But Ralph is right. In the second half, they may pull the reins back a little bit. That's why I want first half Ravens. That's why I probably want the Ravens team total over here. Take Washington out. I may even take the Washington team total under, too, because I don't know how they're going to score. Because remember, Baltimore's corners are really good, and they're not going up against Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. They're going up against Dontrell Inman and Terry McLaurin. So that's kind of how I'm attacking this game.
Which set was better?
Very good, Ralph. Yes.
Okay, boys. New York Giants, LA Rams. Rams minus 12.5, 48. And Ralph, I like the Rams here. And you know me, you've been doing this show with me for a long time. I don't take minus double digits, but this Giants team is a complete and total mess. The Rams team is coming off a heartbreaking loss. This Rams team is not sexy. I mean, you want to talk about looking like the New England Patriots. They're dinking and dunking all the way down the field. Rams are going to win this game, and I think they're going to win this game very easily. 12.5 doesn't scare me as much as the Baltimore-Washington minus 13. My lean is on the Rams. Where are you going?
Well, you're talking about thinking and dunking. We talked about some quarterbacks with a 6.2 YPA. I mean, Jared Goff has a 9.3 YPA. The team is the only team in the NFL to score 400-plus yards all 3 weeks. We talked about that earlier. You're averaging 27 first downs per game, which is awesome. Now, I am going to take the Rams the first half here. And I'll tell you what, I've seen against Buffalo when they had to make that comeback, we saw a very different Jared Goff. It reminded me of the beginning of last year where McMay and Goff were on the exact same page, and he was hitting Robert Woods and he was hitting Kupp. And I mean, that's why they were such a strong team until they lost Kupp to the playoffs or the game before. So, they were a different team without him. I think now, finally, the light bulb went back on where they have Kupp healthy with Woods, and I think they're going to throw the ball more. If they get the big lead, who knows? They only have a road game against Washington. I mean, look at the Rams. Look at the schedule, though. At Buffalo, at Philly, back east. At Buffalo, back west. Play the Giants, then go play Washington. So 3 East Coast games and 4 is really not a schedule maker's friend. So I think they get out early against the Giants. I think they get the best big lead. I think they just run the ball in the second half. So first half, LA Rams.
Love it. Matt?
I agree. I mean, that's why I like the Rams under for their season win total. Was this really tough start? And then there's some other situational things that go against them later on in the schedule. But yeah, all those trips east, you look at the Giants, they just lost to a JV team. The Niners basically had backups and third string guys everywhere and didn't even show up. Daniel Jones has been pressured a league high 41.5% of the time. His quarterback rating is 35.7 in that situation. I'm looking at the Giants team total under. I'm looking at Darrell Henderson props. I think that, you had Sean McVay come out and basically say he'll be the starter once again. It's hard to believe in week 4 we already have a team that may quit, but the Giants may be one of those teams in already.
Yeah, and I love what both of you are saying. And I like the Rams in the first half better than the Rams on the game. You've made me a believer. Ralph, tomorrow on Wager Talk Today, that's for anybody watching this show later on Thursday. From now on Thursdays on Wager Talk Today, Ralph, Teddy, and myself, we end the show at 5 to 1 Eastern every day, 12:55 p.m. Eastern every day. Starting tomorrow, every Thursday, we will keep the show going an extra 15 to 30 minutes. It is going to be questions and answers. So if you guys want us to answer any question, and I mean about anything, if you want to know about any team in any sport, ask us tomorrow. If you want business advice, ask us. If you want to know how to become a handicapper, ask us. If you want to know how to make Carm's lasagna, ask us. We are available to answer any question that you have tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern on Wager Talk Today. Ralph, do you want to add to that?
No.
There you go. Hey, Abby Rhodes, nice to see you. Same with you, Fatty. Okay, let's get to the next one. Kansas City, -7 against New England, 53 on tap. I like the over in this game, Ralph. I'm going to stay away from the side, but I think we're going to see a shootout.
I have no opinions on the side, and I can say this. I mean, how can you take any team but Kansas City? You know, they're 13-0 their last 13 games. They're 12-1 ATS. They have scored, you know, they're averaging a 10-point margin of victory, 30-10. You just went and beat the Chargers, division foe out west, and you went to Baltimore in the biggest Monday night game. So all that says there's no way I cannot bet Kansas City. But then I say this. Kansas City's off that Baltimore game, the biggest game that they probably played. You have Belichick with revenge, and we'll just throw out these numbers. Lifetime at New England, Belichick with revenge, 64%. Belichick with revenge on the road, 68%. And Belichick revenge against a non-division foe as a dog, 13-2 ATS. So that's pretty good. We've seen that New England is handled Miami like they should have, handled Oakland, manhandled them in the second half. And then, if it weren't for Cam Newton trying to jump from 3 yards where what he thought was a 1 yard away, they could have beaten Seattle. So I am going to say this, and I have no opinion on either side, and I will just be watching as a fan.
Mid-Major Matt, sportsmemo.com. What do you like in this?
I agree with Ralph here. I actually don't have a lean on either the side or the total, and I'll say this. So last week, the easiest prop I hit was over 2.5 receptions for Sexy Rexy Burkhead. But I don't think that's going to be the situation this week. James White returned to practice. Damian Harris is set to come off the IR. So while last week Burkhead was the guy to go to, I don't know how that's going to go for people who potentially might want to look at the Burkhead props. Also, I did a little research. You know, Belichick likes to take out the number one thing that the opposition does. So I figured it was Travis Kelce. Well, last year, Travis Kelce had 9 targets, 7 catches for 66 yards. Back in 2018, he had 5 targets, 3 catches for 23 yards, and 9 targets for 5 catches for 61 yards. It might be too hard for him to take Kelce out. So it'll be interesting to see what Belichick does to kind of neutralize, or at least attempt to neutralize, this KC offense. Might be a green light still on the Kelce props for this game. But yeah, I agree with Ralph. No, nothing on the side of the total here.
Ralph, really quick, out of curiosity, KC and New England, they've played each other a few times with Pat Mahomes. Do you know the scores offhand? I just can't remember.
Yep, I will in 1 second.
Okay, well, while you're looking that up,
year,
I just want to remind everybody, 1 p.m. Eastern every Thursday, directly following Wager Talk Today, we are going to have questions and answers. We will answer any question that you have as well. Ralph, while you're checking that out, one of our amazing viewers just commented that they're having trouble buying a package at wagertalk.com for one of our handicappers. Is there an issue? Look, it's been active all day. I mean, we're making sales. When I came on the show, there was no issue, but I can't look now. But I assure you both, Ralph and I will be on it as soon as.
Just email customer service.
That's what I wrote. Email customer service at Wager Talk. Ralph, what were those scores?
2019, week 14, Chiefs at the Patriots. They were +3. They win 23-16. You had the Chiefs at home for the playoff game. It was New England 37-31.
Right, I remember that.
And in 2018, the Chiefs were on the road at New England plus 3.5. That was that crazy 43-40 game with the backdoor cover.
And the reason I asked that question is one of our listeners, one of our viewers put in, Belichick's a defensive genius. Yeah, 41 points doesn't sound like a genius, nor 31. You're gonna need to be a hell of a lot more than a genius to keep Pat Mahomes and that KC offense down. Guys, couple more games. Big shout out to all of you. Thanks for staying with us. Buffalo -3 against the Raiders, 52.5. Carm and I had a conversation about this game a couple hours ago. He likes Buffalo, and my gut feel was that Buffalo is a better team than Vegas. Buffalo's record will be better than Vegas. Buffalo will make the playoffs this year. Vegas likely won't. With all that said, I just think this is a bad spot for Buffalo. Everything in my being is telling me they're going to lose 3-4 games this year. This is going to be one of them. I actually like the Raiders here, and I like them on the money line. Matt?
I mean, the Raiders seem like I can't make any case for the Raiders. The Raiders defense has allowed over 400 yards, and they only have 3 sacks, and they got 2 of them last week. Max Crosby had 2 sacks last week. The injuries are a concern. Henry Ruggs and Bryan Edwards figure not to play. Arnett's questionable, so a secondary that's already not very good may not have a guy. And you look at Buffalo with everything that 331 yards passing per game. Everything points to Buffalo here, but yet I can't take it, but I can't take the Raiders. The thing to watch out for here, this is the Zay Jones revenge game. It almost lines up perfectly for the former Bills wide receiver to have a monster game against his former team if he does not get the Tre'Davious White treatment here. So watch the Zay Jones props. Gruden has a sense of humor, and he's the type of guy that will get him in as much as possible. But I want to take the Raiders, but I just can't do it because everything points to Buffalo.
And that's where I'm at. And I said that. They're a better team. They're better on defense. They're better on offense. I got a bad feeling about the Bills, Ralph.
Well, it's what's the mentality coming out of that Rams game? I mean, is it we had the lead and we gave it up, or is it we proved we can come back and win a game when it's down to the last second? Obviously, the pass interference helped, but I mean, Josh Allen was not good down that stretch when he got sacked, and there was a couple bad plays. Granted, that pass interference gave him the touchdown, but I look at this, and there's not many games you're going to have. I mean, if you're an over-better, there's not many games you're going to have where both teams after 3 games are completing over 70%, and both defenses are allowing over 65%. Those are scary numbers, and, Buffalo hasn't been dink and dunk. They're at 9.0 yards per attempt, and Derek Carr is a 7.7. So I'd be afraid to play Buffalo off of the way they won that game at 3-0, traveling to a brand new stadium that no one's ever seen. The Raiders look good against New Orleans. I would lean with the over.
Ralph, we talk all the time about big players getting injured, Garoppolo and tight end Kittle and running back, but we see this in every sport, whether Steve Stamkos is out for Tampa Bay or whoever is out for a basketball team. We see the team step up big time. Always good to bet the team that lost their stars the next game. But the game after, not so much. Philadelphia has to win this football game. They are in tough. Their season is on the line. I know Matt has a lot to say. Matt, we'll go to you first. I lean on Philadelphia here. I can't get there because I just don't trust this team or this coach. 46 is the total. I lean on the under, but that's where I'm going. Philly and the under, but I likely won't be betting this game.
I was waiting for Ralph to give all sorts. He was so nice to me at the start of the show. I was waiting for like 6 or 7 trends against the Eagles because last week it was all trends against the Eagles. I don't know where the points are coming from for Philly. No Dallas Goedert, no Jalen Reagor. Alshon Jeffrey's still out. It looks like Deshaun Jackson's not going to play. Quez Watkins is going to step up and be one of the wide receivers. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's essentially a nobody. He doesn't do anything. It's Greg Ward, it's John Hightower, and it's Zach Ertz. And then if they commit, look, if you tell me that they were going to commit to the run game, whether or not it worked or not, I think that the Eagles' play would be there, but they just don't. Miles Sanders should have had 130 yards rushing against the Bengals. They should have beaten them rather easily. They didn't because Doug Peterson's a terrible play caller. On defense, Avonte Maddox is now banged up. They've already benched for Nikhil Roby-Coleman at slot corner. Their front line should get some pressure here because San Francisco's offensive line is vulnerable. There are reasons to take the Eagle. I can't do it. I'm resigned to the fact this team's going to be 0-5-1 to start because they've got Pittsburgh and they've got Baltimore after that, and then we'll see what happens after that. This is a bad football team. I'm taking the under for their team total points until they show me something. The good news is George Kittle was full go today for the 49ers. Bad news is Jimmy G didn't go. Mostert, Jordan Reed, and like 99% of their defensive guys are still banged up. It's another situation where you're right. The Eagles should be able to cover this number. I have zero confidence in them to do so, so I'm taking the under for their team total points and hoping I'm wrong.
Oh, well, but wait a minute. I hope you're right because you're betting your money on that. Money before loyalty, Matt.
All right, then let's hope that they win 17-13 and then the team total under hits and they win a game. They're not going to win a game. Tank for Trevor. Let's go.
Tank for Fabio?
No, tank for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Fabio.
No, he doesn't look like
Yeah,
Fabio.
but if he's going to wear his hair so ridiculously, I'm going to call him Fabio, and I'm even a fan of long hair. And on top of that, and you heard me last year tell everybody Joe Burrow was going to be a monster on Sundays. Hear me now. Fabio will not be a monster on Sundays. Find somebody else. Ralph Michaels, what do you like in this Eagles-49ers game?
Man, I am hurt that you say I only speak ill about the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's a positive. They're only half game out of first place.
There you go, Matt. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Whatever.
I don't know. I am actually I am flabbergasted that spending 2 weeks on the East Coast with the injury list that the 49ers had, and they had a 420 to 231 yard edge. Forget the score, because the score can be misleading. But when you have a 29 to 13 first down edge, you have just freaking dominated that opponent. So are the schemes working, or are the Giants just that bad? Well, we went back and said it could be that the Giants are just that bad. So let's look at San Francisco's body of work. Arizona, and they lost. The Jets and the Giants. Oh, yeah. How did we start out this segment? The only two teams this year that have failed to reach 300 yards in any game are the Jets and the Giants. So, when I said Houston's probably played historically the strongest schedule of the first 3 weeks in NFL history, the San Francisco 49ers could be on the bottom or the easiest schedule. So with that said, there's no way I'm going to back them as a favorite. But can I back Matt's Eagles?
No.
It scares me to even say I lean that way, but I do.
And I'm with you. I lean that way too, but I can't get to the window. I just want to say CK, one of our viewers in capital letters, writes, Prez, make sure to tell Ralph he is the man and you need to learn from him. So, Ralph, you are the man, and not only do I need to learn from you, but I have the privilege of actually learning from you every single day on Wager Talk Today, 12 to 1 Eastern. And yes, I'm continuously pushing that show. Last game, Atlanta, +7 against Green Bay, 57 points. Here's my prediction. Atlanta gets out to a 16-point lead. There's 1 minute and 3 seconds to go in the game. Atlanta has the ball, and they still lose and don't cover. But in all seriousness, I like Atlanta here. I'm just done with them. I'm not betting them. I absolutely refuse. I lean on the over. Can't touch 57. Sorry, guys. I got nothing for you on Monday night. Matt?
I mean, there's some injuries to consider here. How healthy is Julio Jones? You look at Russell Gage, who's been that guy that's stepped up, besides Calvin Ridley. I mean, Ralph read down the target list. Calvin Ridley's been very busy this year. But there's the other injuries, Ricardo Allen, Takari McKinley. And then you got Grady Jarrett, Kendall Sheffield, and Olakun, who are starting to work their way back. It's a Falcons defense that has some talent, but what's the confidence level? What are they going into this game with right now? Over the past 18 seasons, just 5 NFL games have closed with a over/under higher than 58. I mean, it's a ridiculous number, but the problem is you can't take the under. On the Packers side, we have to watch Devontae Adams. Alan Lazard looked really good against a bad Saints secondary. Probably will look good once again, although he's hot and cold. Marquez Valdez-Scantling hasn't been consistent in any sort of way. The Packers have a couple of key injuries on defense. They got away with Kenny Clark last time, and Christian Kirksey is another guy who is questionable, may not play for this game. The Packers are a way better team here, but the Falcons have to break through eventually, don't they?
And it's going to be right when you don't expect it.
Exactly. So to me, and I know people want picks and leans and everything. I think you'll look at a lot of props here. I think Rodgers goes over his passing touchdown here. I think Aaron Jones scores a touchdown. But with regards to the side and the total, I got nothing
Ralph?
here.
I'm going to add to Matt's by couple years. My database goes back to 1989. And when there's a total of over 57, so 57.5 or higher, we've had 15 overs, 6 unders, and a push. So if you really do like the over, they've hit 71.4% at this number. Don't be afraid to bet them. There's a reason this number's too big. And, I'll say this too. When you talk lows and you talk highs, the Vegas adjustments are very slow. Example I'll give. If you have the number 1 best defense, you may actually be 5 spots better than the number 2 defense, but you only show up 1 in the stat box. If you're the worst defense, you may be actually number 38, but you could only drop down to 32. When you're getting high totals like they have and they've never reached, they're going to slowly jump to them. They don't make those multiple number adjustments. So it's rare for me to say there may be value with a 58, but there actually could be value because if you look at the way the team's played, it really probably should be a 1, 2, or maybe 3-point adjustment from what they were last game. But Vegas doesn't make that adjustments on the high end or on the low end when we get there. So, with that said, Green Bay, 122 points the first 3 games, is the 6th best in NFL history. Atlanta, we all know their meltdowns. No team in the NFL had ever before this season given up 2 leads of 16 points or more in the fourth quarter. Atlanta did it back-to-back weeks, let alone twice in the same season. And here's a stat for you, an angle that I didn't put out on TNA. Monday night teams that have a win percentage of 100 against a non-division foe. So it's that simple. You're at home, you're undefeated. Are you going to lose that Monday night to lose your undefeated season against a non-division foe? Those teams against the spread, 18-4-1. That is 82% ATS. I do here I'm leaning the over with no opinion on the side because you look at what Green Bay's done, and they have not performed great the first half. They were only up 17-14 against Detroit. They were down 13-17 against New Orleans. So where there's a lot of times I'm looking that I like the team that scores the most at home to back them in the first half. That's not the case in this time with the Packers. So I am going to go ahead and not be afraid to give a lean out on over that 58.
Awesome stuff, guys. Outstanding show. We got just one last segment left. We got to come up with our consensus 3-pack. We are 2-4 in our consensus plays so far, but the season is young, and Atlanta was a terrible loss last week. Could have been 2-1, but coulda, shoulda, woulda. What does Sean Mack say? Prez, you should invest in having your own sports book wager bets. Yeah, no. Guys, I listened to everybody. I mean, look, I want to apologize because I know some of the people comment later as they watch the show throughout the week. Oh, why didn't you give us a pick on every game? I know I passed a lot, but I'm not going to make this shit up. Nor is Matt, nor is Ralph. There's a lot of integrity to what we do. Martin wants to know about teasers, so let's just start there. Matt, do you have a teaser for this weekend?
Yeah, my teaser is, and I've got the thing in front of me. So Tampa Bay is definitely on there. I'm throwing San Francisco on there because I am a glutton for punishment, and then I'm going Green Bay because they're home and because I don't think the Falcons' comeback's happening. I don't feel as confident as the other ones there, but I'll go with those three. What about you guys?
I like Tampa Bay in a teaser. I like Kansas City in a teaser. I just think this team is unstoppable. I like San Fran in a teaser as well, and honestly, I like Detroit teased up for a 4-teamer. Ralph?
I'm going to pass on this segment, Prez, because I have my first ever 5% teaser going up this weekend at Wager Talk. And you know what? I wasn't even going to give out this coupon because it was supposed to be a special on another show, but I'm going to give it out. We know 5% plays are $40. If you use the code TANDA, T&A, all spelled out, you're going to save $22 and get that 5% teaser for just $18. So that'll be up Saturday. So I will skip this part of the show.
Yeah, and I'm also, after seeing Marco release a teaser last week, I'm going to start releasing teasers as well. I've got one going up this week too. Guys, our consensus pack, I only heard 2, Tampa Bay and Indianapolis under. Matt, do you have a third? What was a third consensus that came out?
I mean, I think you and I at least lean towards Miami.
I'm comfortable with Miami.
But
no, I was with you. I said there's no way I could back a road favorite lay that's allowing 497 yards per game. So Miami would clearly be.
There you go, boys. Indianapolis
or
under,
first half.
Tampa Bay and Miami. That is the show. It is with a lot of love that I say goodbye to you all. Make sure to watch Wager Talk today, tomorrow, 12 to 1. Gianni is on. Dave Koken is on. Ralph is on. And then at the end of the show, we're going to do a segment Q&A for 15 to 20 minutes, give or take. You can ask any question you want on any topic you want. We are here to help. We love you all. Thanks for joining us. Matt, thank you for your time. Ralph, like always, the busiest man at Wager Talk. Can't thank you enough. Do you want to say anything before we leave?
Nope, we're good. Have a great weekend. And, now all of a sudden COVID starts coming into play. Like Matt said, Minnesota off a couple days. We'll see how that affects people. Start writing these things down, guys, because we don't know how it's going to last. So when the first time it happens, don't think it'll never happen again. Jot down notes, what you think will occur. Jot down notes after it occurs, and it'll just make you a better.
Be well, everyone. Peace out. Word up.